This is the Voir Dire podcast. And now your host, attorney Scott Reisch.
All right, welcome back to another podcast of Voir Dire. Today we have Matthew Schultz back with us again, and another attorney here from the Reisch law firm of Stephen Weingar. And today the topic is, because being an attorney, sometimes it's a love-hate endeavor. The topic of the day is, what's the best thing and the worst thing about being a lawyer? Okay? I'll start off with the best thing, then we'll kind of work around the room. I think the best, and then we'll work to the worst thing, all right? The best thing is you get to help people. I think generally people that become attorneys aren't just in it for the money. It's a nice bonus, so to speak, but I think generally people that go to law school want to help other people in situations, and that's definitely one of the things that we get to do as an attorneys. Matt, what do you think?
Well, I think that depends on what kind of attorney you become.
Okay.
For us litigation attorneys, I agree. I think it's helping people.
Helping them out of their problems, right? Or helping them avoid problems, depending on...
Helping them understand the law.
That's
How about helping them get to a solution?
helping them to get to the solution. Okay.
Now-
achieve their goals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the theme of providing help to these clients, do we always receive the satisfaction or the gratitude from the clients that we think we've provided? No, but I think the beauty about being an attorney is that when we've achieved a result, when we've done something for a client, we can go home and we can sleep well at night knowing that we've done our job. Whether that appreciation is returned every single time, that's just part of the gig, I think.
Absolutely. Trying to achieve the solution, getting to the client's goal, and they have to understand the goals that we as attorneys have to set reasonable expectations. Stephen obviously does our personal injury work here, and everybody, whether the car is totaled or it's a minor fender tap, I think deep down they hope that it's going to be, every case is $1 million. They're going to settle
This is
for
going to set me up for life.
Yeah, when in reality, you have to set those expectations reasonable and say you're not going to retire, but you're going to maybe have a few bucks so you could take a nice trip around the holidays with the family. Maybe a little better holiday season, right?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Every one of my cases, the client always walks away retiring very nicely. No, but you're absolutely right. Managing expectations, it goes hand in hand with ultimately helping people and allowing them to understand that they've been helped. It's funny that you mentioned a word, and I don't want to get off topic here, but the reasonable standard. What is the reasonable expectation? It's a big part of what we do every day, is finding the definition of what reasonable is.
Yeah, and a lot of clients, I think, appreciate what we do, and they understand it, and they appreciate the help. There's some clients, when you get them what they, you ask them, what will you take? And you get it, and then they're like, well, now that we know they can take that, I think we can get a little bit more out of them. But this was your number, this was your goal, or you just got acquitted. You're welcome. Not, can I have my money back? True story. From an attorney who's practiced here in Denver for a long, long time. I was talking to him in court one day, and he explained to me that he had achieved an acquittal for a client on first-degree murder, and the client not only demanded all of his money back, but he grieved him as well, saying that he should not have a license to practice law. And the client's rationale was, it's obvious that I was innocent. If you were any kind of real attorney, I wouldn't even have had to go to trial. And
How far did that complaint make it?
It was obviously dismissed because the client received value, and that's a question of fact for the jury to decide. He should be saying, "Thank you, you saved my life," not "It could have been done faster." So obviously helping people, that's kind of a good and can be the worst thing, is clients that sometimes that aren't, and I don't necessarily mean that everyone should be appreciative and throw themselves at our feet and say thank you, but it's managing those expectations.
Under promise and over deliver.
Yeah. So Stephen, what's the best part about being a lawyer other than working at the Reisch law firm?
Well, giving the topic some thought, oftentimes what is the best thing about being an attorney is often the worst thing about being an attorney. And I would say the best thing about being an attorney is you're always on retainer. You are always thought of as someone who you can go to for help.
Okay.
And it's nice to be in that position. It's empowering. It gives you a sense of worth. It gives you a sense of pride. But on the same token, you're always on retainer. You always have cousins. You always have friends. You always have family members.
For that free legal advice.
For that free legal
Oh,
advice.
So when you go to cocktail parties, oh, you're an attorney, or the barbecue, oh, you're an attorney. Can I ask you one quick question?
That's why I moved to Colorado, because all my family's on the East Coast. I don't practice there. I'm not licensed. I shouldn't be giving you advice. You should probably contact a local attorney.
Matt, I don't know how you've gotten so lucky, because that was the reason I moved here from Florida to Colorado, and I haven't seemed to have evaded the free legal advice.
Yeah, but not only do everyone wants free legal advice always. Family, friends. I got this quick question. And do you also notice that even though you may do a particular area of law, everyone thinks or believes that you know everything about the law because you went to law school?
Yeah, just recently I all of a sudden became a real estate legal expert, and now I'm helping a friend try to recover a significant security deposit. The issue here is that security deposit sits somewhere in a German bank account. So all of a sudden, I now have to figure out how to deal with a landowner in Germany. But that's part of it. That's part of it.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the best legal advice I give all my family. You should get an attorney.
Yes, you're always on retainer, but no one ever pays the retainer, it seems like. Have you ever noticed that? I have friends that...
Is that why we're doing the podcast?
Yeah.
Bringing an extra source of revenue?
I have friends that I only hear about that call and say, hey, how's everything going? Everything good? Hey, well, I got you on the line. I got a quick question for you. Looking for free legal advice. You know, it's nice that they think of you, that you're the guy to turn to, but in the same token, can I send you a bill? I mean, you don't go to King Soopers and grab a bag of chips off the shelf and eat it and say, thanks, I appreciate it, guys, and walk out the door. You just like to be compensated for your time.
So yeah, that would be my answer. That would be my answer. Always on retainer.
Got it. How about the fact, maybe not so much in the personal injury area, but, well, maybe so. As an attorney, everybody hates you until they need you. All attorneys are terrible. All attorneys are shysters. Never trust an attorney. But my attorney is the best. And I don't know how many times you all have had it, but I've had it many times over the years. Where like, I can't believe that I'm hiring someone like you. I'm thinking to myself, hiring me? You're the one that's in trouble. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm trying to help you out of your situation. So, I mean, that's one of the things I know. Everybody hates you until they need you. It's just the bottom line. Nobody likes to have lawyers because, frankly, no one comes to you when everything's great and saying, unless maybe they won the Powerball and they need to, set up an estate plan or something along those lines. But in the most part, they come to an attorney to fix problems or something that's presented themselves in their life.
Well, of course, in most clients' cases, those problems didn't stem from them. They stemmed from somebody else. So they don't think of it as their problem.
Well, maybe in the personal injury arena.
Exactly. So I understand.
Shots fired.
But, yeah, I mean, obviously, in the criminal defense area, usually sometimes people have a pretty good idea of why they're here. They just don't like the fact that there's the inconvenience of having to hire an attorney. Some of the best clients ever are, I hate to say it, are career criminals. they know what they're doing is illegal, and it's just the cost of doing business that they have to hire an attorney. It's the, for lack of a better, the everyday good Joe, good citizen who, gets pulled over for a DUI because they've had a few drinks at the, Christmas party and thinks, I'm a great person. Why is this happening to me? Why are they being so hard on me? And they have to understand that it's not about whether you're a good person. It's about whether you're guilty of what you've been charged with. That's it. And so they feel kind of miffed that they have to, pay to have an attorney and miss work and do classes. And then they see the career criminal get off. Well, the career criminal knew how to keep his mouth shut and didn't volunteer information and basically confess all over himself. And that's one of the worst parts, I guess you can wrap it into that, is the good person that cooperates with the police and confesses all over themselves and gets a crappy deal, and the career criminal who's been through the system and, has confessed all over himself, but has finally learned to keep his mouth shut, and you can walk because that's it. So it's frustrating that sometimes the good people have to take a crummy deal, but they did it to themselves. So, Matt, what's the worst thing about being an attorney? We've talked about that, but that's the topic. Give me another one.
I think almost anything that's the best thing or the worst thing about being an attorney is both. A lot of times.
Absolutely.
And so one of the ones I was thinking about is, at least in the criminal arena, the unpredictability. It can be the best thing, but sometimes it's the worst thing.
Give me an example.
Being, when you got a trial coming up and maybe the DA dumps 5,000 pages of discovery on you in like 2 weeks before trial. Not exactly predictable.
Exactly.
But then, trials in and of themselves are not predictable, but that can be just one of the most exhilarating things about being in trial. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. The uncertainty of it all is it's kind of a rush. And exactly, what's the best thing about being a lawyer? Not knowing what's going to happen today. What's the worst thing? Not knowing what's going to happen today. I had my day pretty much planned out and set, and then somebody called and said, hey, will you go, I'm in a different state, will you go see my son at this jail? I'll pay you for your time. So at some point today, I'm going down to, a detention center to speak with somebody. Didn't have that planned. Probably could have found 10 other things to do, but let's go do it. So, you just never know what's going to happen. I think one of the best things, or the worst things also, is evenings and weekends. It's the best time to get work done, is the evenings, weekends, before everybody shows up at the office. But the worst thing is, it's on the evenings and weekends when you can only get anything done, given the phone calls, the clients that sometimes just show up at your office and say, hey, can I talk to you? No. But you want to say no, but you want to say yes because they're here and only hopefully take a couple of minutes, and then it takes an hour. But it was easier just to get it over with.
And there's the expectation, right? If you call your attorney on an evening or on a weekend, you expect them to answer and help you out. Not necessarily true, but we try to make it happen as much as possible, right, guys?
Yeah. In today's modern world, it's somewhat almost impossible because people, if they know your cell phone, they'll text you, they'll email you. And once you see an email, it's hard to say, oh, I'll just deal with that on Monday. You want to deal with it now. Okay, fine, I'll just call them. It'll only take a second. And then it just compounds. And then you send an email to other people in the firm, and then they're thinking about it.
Well, I have a question for you, Scott, because you've obviously been practicing a lot longer than Matt and I have. So you've seen the evolution of the law practice from a time when technology and accessibility wasn't as prevalent as it is today, to where we're at today, which is you're constantly attached to your phone, you're constantly accessible. How have you been able to deal with that evolution as time has gone on?
Well, this is probably a world that neither one of you will remember, but when I started my practice, there was this new thing called cell phones, all right? And cell phones didn't have email. They weren't smartphones yet. So you actually had to turn the phone off because they didn't have vibrate features on phone, and they were big. But the thing was, I think people respected it more, your privacy, and they knew you had to call the office. You're going to make an appointment. And then it kind of turned into a thing where it's like, well, I'll be more responsive than that other guy. I mean, I can't remember how many cases I would get over a holiday or over the weekend because I was the only guy that called anybody back. Because you did that because you needed, you wanted to respond and needed the work and the clients to get them in the door. But people still respected. They didn't call your cell phone unless it was an absolute emergency. And now, you get calls or an email at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then they wonder why you haven't responded until the morning. Because I was asleep is the answer. I mean, it's completely changed. The clients these days just want that instant response because that's the world that we all now know. And it kind of, it takes away, talk about evenings and weekends. You don't get that many evenings and weekends anymore uninterrupted. Whether you just casually glance at your phone and you see, oh, look, somebody filed a motion. I guess I should take a look at that. Oh, somebody sent this. I should take a look at that. I'll forward this off to somebody. So now I've just ruined somebody else's evening and weekend. It's just changed to this everything's got to get it done now mentality. I think people were more patient. I have friends that started practicing law in the 70s, early 70s, and they said it was like an unbelievable world. People hired you. They respected your opinion. They didn't question a bill. They made appointments. You wrote letters. They wrote letters back and forth. It wasn't, I'm going to shoot a quick email. You get an email back. And it just completely changed the practice of law over the last 25 years. I don't know where it's going to go in the next 10 or 15, but I can't imagine it's going to be something that's going to be allow us to have more time to ourselves. I just don't see it happening.
Well, it's interesting because, you don't necessarily expect that from other professionals. I mean, you don't have your doctor's cell phone number.
I do, but guess what? It costs me a premium.
Right.
I have a concierge doctor, and I pay him, a fee to be available if I need something. And
right.
He does my, yearly physical and all that other stuff. But most doctors would be like, are you kidding me? Calling me on a weekend?
This
call
person
the office.
is stalking me?
Call the office. But the point is it costs extra. You have to pay that premium to say, hey, I have a concierge doctor, and I woke up this morning, my eyes all red. I'm going to send you a picture of it, and can you write me a prescription? Versus call the office and we'll get you in like 3 weeks,
right?
Or go to the emergency room. So yeah, but the difference is you pay for that privilege, so to speak. Whereas in our world, they think that, well, he's my attorney. He should have access 24/7. And I'm not complaining. That's the nature of the business. I've received many calls in the middle of the night from clients saying, hey, Scott, I've just been pulled over by the cops, and what should I do? Well, is there anything illegal in the car? No, but he wants to search it. Tell him no. Leave the phone on, and when he comes up, and I've heard police officers say, so are you going to give me consent to search the car? No, sir. And you hear a pause, and the officer says, okay, fine. Here's your license and registration back. Have a good night. So it's the nature of the business, going back to helping people. It's just evenings and weekends. So, but as attorneys, they expect you to respond and respond now. And I sent you that email an hour ago. Why haven't you responded? I've been in trial all day. I thought I was doing pretty good by getting back to you the same day. So Stephen, what else? What's the, you got to give me something, the worst.
What's the worst, and it's exhausting, is as an attorney, there's an expectation that you just know a lot of things. You're really smart. You're usually the smartest guy in the room. And that's just not the case. We're still human beings. And oftentimes we have to put on some sort of facade or pretend as though we have an answer in times that we don't. or pretend like we have knowledge that we don't. And it can honestly be exhausting sometimes.
Well, are you talking about because you have to go look it up? Or is it because I just don't know when your friends ask you those questions about how do I get my refund back from Germany?
I don't know. But you don't want to be the attorney that admits that, right? Or if you're talking to an attorney on the other side, you don't want to show your hands that you just simply don't know the answer to an important issue at that moment.
So what are my chances at trial?
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Let me do some calculations in my head. I'd say you have about a 37.3256 chance of winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How long is my case going to take?
It depends. And I think that's where most people get, because when you go to law school, they teach you the general principles of law. And when the client asks you, here's my facts, do you think I have a good case? Usually the best answer is, it depends. It depends on the facts. Most cases turn on the facts. And who can go dig up the best facts to support that general principle of law. It's not like just automatically, well, this is the law and it applies. There's so many nuances and cases that come out, and everything changes. It always depends on the facts. So the best answer is, it depends. I don't know. There's no guarantee. I mean, that's just reality of it. But clients don't like that, and they think, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. No, I'm giving you the honest answer. It depends. What do you think the jury's going to do? I don't know. They're out for deliberation. We'll find out at the exact same time what the answer is. You don't know. I'm not in there.
If you find somebody who's going to give you a guarantee, get it in writing, and then when it doesn't happen, come to me to sue them.
Yes, exactly. Because no attorney can give you a guarantee other than maybe I'm going to draft your will, or I will review this and charge you X amount of dollars, but then I'll give you my opinion on what should be changed. But this is the job where people want guarantees. You don't. Just like when you go to the doctor, what are the shots of my full recovery? Well, they're pretty good, but it depends on whether you get a staph infection, whether I do a good job and I wasn't angry with my wife, my kids are behaving, I'm not distracted. Who knows? I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. It just depends. So I understand your frustration.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you answer a question to the client just stating, I don't know and I can't give you an exact answer because it's not an answer I feel like I want to be tied down to, they're not going to be satisfied. No. But if you also give them a false answer, when they ultimately find out that answer was false, they're not going to be satisfied.
Yeah,
it's a juggling act, but
the truth is always
juggling in law school.
The truth is always the best answer, which is sometimes I don't know. I'll have to do some research, or it depends on these facts and how this witness presents, or there's so many things that go into it.
How come that doesn't fly in court? Counselor, from the judge's perspective, counselor, tell me why I should. I don't do criminal law, so this is probably a pretty trivial question. But tell me why your client is innocent. I don't know, Your Honor. That. In that case, the truth doesn't fly, does it?
Fortunately, they never ask that question. but that goes back to what's one of the best and worst things about practicing law.
Why shouldn't I revoke your client's bond?
No, Your Honor, you probably should, but I'm going to argue that he shouldn't because I'm an advocate for my client, and I'm going to do everything I can to...
Let me give you some reasons, Judge.
...zealously represent him. But that's one of the best things about being an attorney is you get to work with some great judges. There are some great judges out there that are absolutely some of the smartest people I've ever met. There's a federal judge. Every time you go in front of him here in Denver, it's like, man, I should get CLE credit. He is so smart. He uses these big words, goes through this analysis, and it's like, wow, that's really smart. And then there's others out there, which shall remain nameless, that you just think you are the biggest box of rocks I've ever seen in my life, and you have no idea what you're doing or how to read the law.
You should receive CLE credits for educating them.
Yeah, I once had a judge tell me, I was arguing that the police had to do A, B, and C as written clearly and plainly in their policy procedures. And the judge clearly didn't like my client and clearly was looking for a way to help the district attorney. And she says, Mr. Reisch, but there's case law out there that says and sometimes could mean or. And she goes, what do you think about that? And I said, that is the most intellectually dishonest thing I think I've ever heard. And she looked at me in just complete pause and puzzlement, like, how could you say that to the court? But I'm like, or and mean two different things completely. But so it makes you, great judges, like, hey, this is the way the wording says. We're going to interpret it as drafted, this plain language at the time that it was written. And other judges want to make stuff up to get to the result that they want. And one of the things that we expect in the law is certainty. That and means and or means or.
Yeah.
That you may or may not have to do it.
Facts can change, but the law should be the same.
Exactly. That's what gives it certainty. That's why people like, this is what it means. That's it. So, all right, really quick, one last thing, because we got to wrap this up. What's the best thing about being a lawyer? Just one sentence. Matt?
I would just say, at least in what I do, the unpredictability of what can happen on a day-to-day basis.
The excitement of it all. Absolutely.
Best part about being a lawyer is I get to show up and help people every day, and on occasions my boss comes into my office and says, hey, Steve, why don't we do a podcast about what's the best part about being a lawyer?
That's true. And the uncertainty. You didn't know when it was going to happen. You didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, but frankly, that's, once again, the best thing about being a lawyer. And that's the difference between just a regular attorney and a trial attorney. A trial attorney can think on their feet and say, let's do this thing. I got this. All right? So I appreciate you taking the time from your busy day to come talk to us about what's the best thing and the worst thing about being a lawyer. And we will continue this in the future. Did you have fun? That's the important thing.
I had fun. I had a good time today.
All right. We're going to thank everyone for listening to Voir Dire. It'll be on YouTube. It will be on voirdire.com, and you can download it at the App Store. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.